All right, I'll call to order the City Council meeting for December 7th, 2020. Just a reminder that we are under Ordinance 1000 still, so I have all council members present with the exception of Councilmember Ken Saunders, who is live on Zoom. I can see him, and so he'll be able to vote in accordance with Ordinance 1000. With that, invocation and pledge of allegiance will be Councilmember Vapurzian.
Heavenly Father, we love you, and we're very, very grateful for your blessings upon our lives. Grateful to live in the greatest nation, that we are still one nation under God. And may we not forget that. When we get things out of line with you, and things invariably get out of line in every other area in our life. And instruments tuned to the same piano can easily be tuned to each other. And I pray that we would be those instruments. We do thank you for health and safety. We pray for our first responders here and all over our nation and this world, for our physicians, our nurses. These can be very scary times. And we just want to thank you for your blessings and ask for your continued protection. We ask for your wisdom and the decisions that we make. Thank you for the servants here in the city of Maumelle who serve the citizens, who even in a difficult time with our budget that we had found ourselves, that there was a readiness and a willingness to do whatever is necessary, that we run just as we always have. And that was very impressive for me to see our department heads come together. Thank you that we have people like that serve our citizens. May we be a reflection of your love, and use us this evening for honor and glory in Jesus' name. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Councilmember Vapurzian. The next order of business is special guests and announcements, and it is my great honor to name Mr. Don Harbor as the Mayor's Employee of the Month for May. So Don, if you will please join me up front here. On the stage, it isn't a stage. No, here we go. I just have a proclamation I'd like to read, first of all. It says, this is a proclamation naming Don Harbor as the Mayor's Employee of the Month for May 2020 and declaring December 11th, 2020 to be Don Harbor Day in the city of Maumelle. Whereas Don Harbor has been employed by the city of Maumelle for 14 years as a building inspector and a code enforcement officer. He is an expert in stormwater management and is licensed to perform inspections on electrical, mechanical, and plumbing work. Whereas Mr. Harbor has extensive knowledge of general construction in both residential and commercial environments, which is a skill that has allowed the city to minimize the need for multiple trade inspectors and reduces contractor downtime due to scheduling conflicts. Whereas Mr. Harbor has a positive outlook and jovial attitude that not only brightens the day of everyone he comes around, but has been a contributing factor to a positive culture in the Department of Planning and Permits and City Hall as a whole. Customer service is a top priority for Mr. Harbor, making him one of the favorites among many of the contractors doing work here in our city. And whereas Mr. Harbor is a veteran of the United States Navy, where he served our nation proudly in the Vietnam War, he's multilingual, an avid reader, a master gardener, chef extraordinaire, and a tremendous asset to the city of Maumelle. Now, therefore, I, Caleb Norris, Mayor of Maumelle, do hereby declare Don Harbor to be the Mayor's Employee of the Month for May 2020 and proclaim December 11th, 2020 to be Don Harbor Day here in the city. So, please join me.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you. How can you afford me?
How can I afford you?
How
Easily.
can you afford me?
Here, let's get a picture here. There you go. Be sure and smile behind the mask. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
Thank you, Mayor.
Yeah. We weren't supposed to shake hands. Oh. It's on video.
Sanitize.
Don truly is great to work with. He was nominated and confirmed by multiple folk, or nominated and concurred with by multiple different folks as just being someone that's pleasant and creates a positive atmosphere here. And he's definitely a smart aleck. But
Thank you.
thank you. A tremendous asset. Thank you, Don. The next order of business is approval of the minutes for the November 16th regular meeting. You all received a copy of that in your council packet. I'd entertain a motion to adopt those. We had a motion to approve and second. Is there any discussion on that? Seeing none, all those in favor, please speak into the mic and say yes.
Yes.
Yeah, yes.
All opposed, say no. Motion carries. Thank you. Public comment is up next. I don't have any public comment cards. Is that correct? We will move right on to the financial statement review for the month of October. Ms. Mathis, the floor is yours.
Good evening. We are a little bit delayed here in getting you the October financials since we were working on budget and all sorts of fun stuff at the same time. So we'll have November for you. The next council meeting we'll catch back up. But just taking a look real quickly at October, or where we were at year to date as of the end of October. On our county millage tax, we were trending behind budget about $292,000. Ahead of the prior year, about $13,000. The payment we got in November for $519,000 is $13,000 less than the prior year, puts us about even year over year, which I'm anticipating will probably end the year around $125,000 under budget on that line item. Franchise fees were ahead of budget year to date, a little bit behind the prior year. That may be timing of a few of those coming in. Our state turnback funds, we've been talking about this, we're still trending behind budget year to date and slightly behind the prior year, related to the state holding back those funds. We may get them back in spring of next year. We didn't necessarily budget more for next year in that area though, because that was still a little bit of an unknown whether we would get that percentage they've held back. You know, so when we're looking at next year's budget, we didn't necessarily budget an increase for next year based on guaranteed getting those funds back towards the end of the state's fiscal year. Our county sales tax represents sales tax collected in August. And year to date, we're $54,000 ahead of the budget and $147,000 more than the prior year. Our city sales tax, we're $61,000 ahead of budget year to date and $253,000 ahead of the prior year. And that includes 7 out of the 9 months of that reduction in sales due to that big credit we had to pay back that they spread out over 9 months for us. Police and fire, still trending ahead of budget year to date and ahead of the prior year. We've been talking about that. It's a little bit deceiving because we've kind of changed the way we're reporting the lot fee. But we have seen increases on the police side in our 911 fees due to, they've changed some of the laws in 2019. And so now we're getting sales tax on cell bills, or excuse me, a 911 fee that's charged on the cell phone bills. We're getting a portion of that, and so that the 911 funds have come up significantly from previous years. In addition to, we're recording them differently, and we do have sales tax increases on that police and fire tax. Parks Department, both behind budget $137,000 and behind the prior year $55,000. However, expenses are under budget $166,000, so they've more than compensated on the expense side for the revenue reductions. And the same with seniors, behind budget $96,000 and the prior year $63,000, but they're $150,000 under budget on expenses. Expenditures in all departments remain under budget year to date. The reclassifications that were needed between Public Works and Street and Sanitation were completed in October. So these numbers do reflect that, all of that being reallocated the way it was budgeted. And then the page right after our general fund balance report, talks about the general fund balance. We've been discussing for the last month or so, adjusting revenues that were recorded in the general funds in past years that were reclassified to the street fund. Continuing to work on that, and going through 2019 and trying to make sure we've caught all of those type things and looking at all of those, so that the fund balance that you're being presented with is the most accurate fund balance we can give you. At this time, that fund balance is $533,000 below the required minimum. This should correct in November due to a couple things. One was that $519,000 millage payment, which is the second highest millage payment we've received all year. So it's a timing of when we're receiving revenues for this year. The other part of it, as we had discussed, we had in our 2021 budget moved streetlights and that senior transportation kind of out of the general fund and into the street fund. The other thing that we had done is taken the vehicle insurance for streets and for sanitations and allocated their portion out of citywide services into the streets and sanitation funds. In November, I'm going to compile what those numbers are for 2020 year-to-date and budget, and we'll have a budget resolution for you at the next council meeting to approve moving the budget for those items to the street and sanitation funds, which would then allow us to reclassify those expenses for 2020. So all of those things kind of put together should kind of true us back up to being within our required minimum on our general fund balance. Taking a look at our, I didn't change slides when I talked about expenses, but if you looked at the report, you can see we are under budget in every department, which is great. Our street fund revenue and expenses, the county millage tax, just like in the general fund, it's behind budget year to date and slightly behind the prior year to date, but we get that big payment in November. It'll look different on the next report. State turnback funds are trending slightly ahead of budget and the prior year, and unlike the general fund, the state is not withholding or keeping a portion back of the turnback funds for streets, so we are receiving the full amount for streets that we're going to receive. Both the personnel and operating expenses in streets remain under budget for the year, even after we did those reclassifications between all of the different departments or funds. And our sanitation fund, $66,000 behind budget on revenues and slightly behind the prior year. You saw in your packet there were several letters from Central Arkansas Water. They've been starting to do some shutoffs. We're starting to see some collections on some of those delinquent accounts. We may or may not see that getting back up to budget on those revenues. However, they are operating expenses are $68,000 under budget year to date and $34,000 less than the prior year, and their personnel expenses are $139,000 behind budget and $102 more than the previous year. So they've, again, on the expense side, even though their revenues are trending down a little bit, they've made up for it on the expense side in those categories. Didn't put a whole lot of other information on there just because there's going to be more coming in November and December in particular as regards to our COVID-19 response funds as we finish that up and we get those funds in this next month. I believe you have a resolution in front of you tonight too for some of that. That'll change some of the reporting on those other fund balances and what those look like. So there's not a lot to add on those right now. And that's all I have.
Thank you. Is there any discussion?
I was going to ask you how the 2018 audit's coming along.
Well, because of budget, I've kind of had to set it aside for a little bit. So they're still waiting for me to verify a few little pieces for them, but we should be wrapping that up in the next week or two.
Okay, they pretty much finished the field work.
Yes.
Thank you.
If there is no further discussion, I'd entertain a motion to accept the financials. I've got a motion second to accept the October financial report. All those in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
All opposed, please say no. Motion carries. Just really quickly, I want to say thank you to Ms. Mathis and the entire finance department. They've really been chugging away. We've had some quarantines out of that department this last week, and at least one confirmed case, so they've been working from home and they're testing and they've been dealing with a lot of struggles combined with, I told Liz earlier today that hers is the only extension number that I've wholeheartedly memorized. I don't even have to think about it, I just hit it because they've really been chugging away, on budget and just about everything, CARES Act and whatnot, so. Thank you to you and your entire department for the work you guys have been doing. With that, we will move on to Planning Commission report. Hang on a second. Okay, I believe that is Councilmember Scott.
Okay, there, the only real items of work that were done were preliminary plat approval and a couple of final plat approvals. But I thought the item of interest was that when permits are, or when plot plans and those kinds of things are approved, there's a defined time period for those. If no work materializes in that period of time, be it a year or 2 years, then it's up to the contractor or developer to resubmit plans if they miss the deadline, or to request an extension. When Jim Neri was running the department, he just took it upon himself, even though it was not his responsibility, to contact these contractors and things in advance and then take care of the extension himself. Well, with Jim's illness and subsequent death, those things kind of got behind. So Mr. Grummer, when he took over the department, he got to looking at it and thought, oh my, this is something that we need to do. So he had a whole list of plans that had expired. Well, it was the feeling of the Planning Commission that it was not the business of the city to hold our contractors and developers' hands. So even though Scott had gone to all of that trouble to notify them, they have decided that if a deadline is missed, then they do have to reapply. In the case of the ones found by Mr. Grummer, there are probably a dozen of them or so. A number of them they just said, don't bother reapplying, and on a few of them there were some reapplications made. But I think it's important to note that, just because I think it needs to be public knowledge to the contractors. Don't rely on someone else to do the housekeeping portion of that for you. You know that it's going to be their responsibility to do that in the future. And that was my main takeaway from the meetings I attended.
Well, thank you.
I've got a quick follow-up question. So all those items that were up for extension were not extended, is that correct?
A number of them were terminated. Some of them requested an extension. It looked like
Items on Country Club.
those, Country Club of Arkansas, Phase 24B was granted an extension. Both of those were granted an extension, those two, yeah.
If you're
The
talking about
developer-
the, right there in front of the Country Club of Arkansas.
Cypress Bay Development.
Yeah, I want to say it's Benson,
Yeah.
those two withdrew their request at this time. Is that right, Mr. Grummer? Yes.
So if anything's going to be developed there, they've got to come back in front of the Planning Commission, is
Yeah.
that correct?
Country
Yes.
Club of Arkansas, Cypress Bay, got an extension, didn't it? I mean, that's what I have in my notes.
I'll check with Mr. Grummer.
Yeah, Cypress Bay, and then someone, Carnahan. Yeah, Cypress Bay is the one that will grant extensions, two of them.
All right, thank you. The next item of business is a procedural motion. I entertain a motion to have all ordinances and resolutions read by title only.
Seconded.
I've got a motion and second to have all ordinances and resolutions read by title only. Is there any discussion on that matter? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say yes.
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 All opposed, please say no. Motion carries. We'll move on to unfinished business. First up is the third reading of ordinance 1018, amending the master street plan. Madam City Clerk Treasurer, if you could please read that by title only.
Be it enacted by the City Council of the City of Maumelle, Be it enacted by the City Council of the City of Monmouth, County of Pulaski, State of Arkansas, an ordinance to be entitled Ordinance Number 1018, an ordinance amending multiple sections of the Monmouth City Code to permit local streets to be paved to a maximum of 27 feet and for other purposes.
All right, Councilmember Gardner?
Motion to approve ordinance 1018.
I've got a motion and a second to approve ordinance 1018. Is there any discussion on that matter? Seeing none, Madam City Clerk Treasurer, roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Mosley. Yes. Councilmember Saunders.
Yes.
Councilmember Scott.
Yes.
Councilmember Gartner.
Yes.
Councilmember Williams. Yes. Councilmember Tierney.
Yes.
Councilmember Vapurzian.
Yes.
Councilmember Holt.
Yes.
All right, motion passes. We will move on to the first item of new business. That's the confirmation of the Public Facilities Board appointment. In the last council packet, we included the resume and some information about Mr. Tony Wilson, who was the board's sole nominee for another 5-year term pursuant to the ordinances. I reappointed Mr. Wilson, and then that is subject to confirmation from the city council. I did not ask Mr. Wilson to be here. In hindsight, that might have been a good idea, but,
Motion to approve reappointing Tony Wilson for 5-year term on the board of the Monmouth Public Facilities.
thank you. All right, we have a motion and a second to appoint to confirm the appointment of Mr. Wilson to the Public Facilities Board. Any other discussion? Mr. Mosley?
Yeah, I don't have any problem with this. I just was wondering if you could give us a brief update about what the Facilities Board is doing. Is there anything currently going on with the Facilities Board?
Not that I am aware of. They have an idea of some stuff that they're wanting to spend some money to invest in some stuff, but I don't know that they have made any determinations, and currently they are awaiting recommendations or input from my office to theirs. We have Ms. Keller looking into, and I've looked into, and I think in my inbox, what some other communities were doing with public facilities boards and economic development or investment. And so, no, there's nothing formally moving through that I'm aware of, but again, they don't necessarily report to me, so.
Okay, yeah, I haven't seen a report on anything they've been doing for a long time, so, all right, thank you.
Yeah, well, I don't know that they've done anything in a long time. I think the only thing they've done in the last number of years was serve as bonding for Academics Plus, the nonprofit associated with that. Prior to that, I don't think they've done anything for years. But they do have an account and exist.
Okay, all right, thank you, sir.
Did we vote on that motion?
No.
Okay, so there's a motion and a second to confirm the appointment of Mr. Tony Wilson to the Public Facilities Board. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say yes.
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 All opposed, please say no. Motion carries. Thank you all. The next order of business is the first reading of Ordinance 1019, amending the Maumelle City Code. Madam City Clerk Treasurer, if you could please read that by title only.
Be it enacted by the City Council of the City of Monmouth, County of Pulaski, State of Arkansas, an ordinance to be entitled Ordinance Number 1019, an ordinance amending multiple sections of the Monmouth City Code to require stormwater management and drainage facilities to be designed and constructed to manage 25-year expectancy events in residential areas and for other purposes.
Thank you. All right, this is an ordinance that went through the Planning Commission a month or two back, and I neglected to include it in the council packet at the appropriate time. Mr. Harbour? Yes, sir. I'm amazed you're soldiering through this meeting. No, you're more than welcome to be here. But yeah. Normally, I would have said you're free to leave if you'd like, but, no, we're glad you're here. Although, as a quick aside, Mr. Harbor said he attended a council meeting a decade or so ago as about a decade or so ago as a citizen in civilian clothes, and somehow the discussion turned to a bunch of code enforcement and building inspector stuff. And he said he wasn't prepared to talk about any of it, and that was the last council meeting he attended in Irma. So we'll see if we can come up with some good questions for you. Speaking of stormwater, from the stormwater expert, no. This went through the Planning Commission a little while back. Primarily, our local streets and subdivisions only had to be built to accommodate a 10-year flood. I mentioned to the Planning Commission that this will increase preparedness by requiring the residential subdivisions to account for a 25-year flood. So supposedly rare flood event. But this matches what a lot of cities will do. This isn't a complete and comprehensive review of drainages, but it will increase, it should decrease flooding in some new subdivisions that are coming in by requiring a little extra detention. So with that, this is on first reading. If there's any discussion. Councilmember Mosley.
Can you give me an example just of one current situation that perhaps we have that if it had been designed for the 25-year that we might not be having problems?
Well, no, I can't give you a specific example, but what I can say, because I haven't done a comparison to say if a particular neighborhood that had received some flooding would have been designed for 25-year standards, would that have resolved or stopped the flooding issue? We just haven't gone through those calculations at all. We do know that drainage and subdivision flooding seems to be a continual and persistent issue here in the city. As I was moving my office from the mayor's old office in the unrenovated portion of the building to the new portion, I went through a stack of folders that were sitting on my desk in prime location. And those were some folders that were left there by Mayor Watson, and I was digging through them to see if they needed to stay in such a prominent position on the mayor's desk. And I opened up one of the folders, and it was a bunch of handwritten notes from Birch Johnson going back and forth between, residents and the city engineers, all dealing with drainage issues. And we continue to improve those that we can. But it sure be a little bit more helpful if we had to do less of that. And so this will just increase the burden on some of the developers to help us out with drainage a little bit more. And it isn't unprecedented. We're now kind of matching some of our surrounding communities.
I think this is a good idea, and it's just for things going forward. Is that correct?
Yes, yes.
All right, thank you.
Councilmember Holt?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. If I'm understanding what you're talking about, this goes way back, tells you how long I've been around. The first or second meeting when Mayor Johnson became mayor, we had a massive flood here in Maumelle, and the water drainage ditch that goes behind Meadow Ridge, all of those homes were about a couple of feet underwater, and that entire ditch had been overrun completely. So they had to go in and have now rebuilt all of that, and that was a result of what I think would qualify as a 25-year flood. People came and begged for help from the city to be able to help redo their homes, and they were unable to do so. But it was the first or second meeting after the mayor became a mayor. It was a great welcoming for his regime. But anyway, I just want to tell you, that was in about year 2000.
Thank you.
In a lot of neighborhoods at the time, to try to get water just in a heavy rain to move past houses better. They put in some railroad ties and just some simple things too, I remember. But thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Gardner?
Thank you, Mayor. Are there any developers currently building to this 25-year standard, or are they pretty much all going through the 10-year standard, the bare minimum?
So
That
just
may be-
for fun fact, every time you ask me a question, I look up and make eye contact with Mr. Grummer, and
I was
he'll
gonna direct it
shake
to
his
him,
head,
but I
yes
thought
or
I'd
no.
start with you.
I'm not aware of any that have. What they do is submit their calculations to the city engineer, who looks at those based on, and approves them based on the 10-year. And so I think on occasion, they'll exceed the 10-year. They'll do more, but we just kind of look at that and go, okay, you've met the minimum and approved. I don't know that they, yeah.
Okay.
So I don't have precise
Okay.
calculations on that. Anything else? If not, this will be on second reading at the next city council meeting. The next order of business is Resolution 2020-34, approving an operating budget for 2021. Madam City Clerk Treasurer, if you could please read that by title only.
A resolution of the City Council of the City of Maumelle, Pulaski County, Arkansas, resolution number 2020-34, a resolution of the Maumelle City Council adopting the budget for the operation of the city for the calendar year 2021.
Thank you. First off, I want to say that I'm very proud of where we ended up at the end of this process. I would have preferred if it was a much rosier picture from the beginning. When we first got the numbers with the budget transfers that were required to go from the general fund to the street fund, I was very concerned that we just wouldn't be able to make the amount of cuts to the city's expenditures that would prevent us from having to lay off employees or not give raises. A huge round of applause goes to Liz for her, Ms. Mathis in the finance department for their work on this, as well as each and every department head. Once everyone became aware of the situation, I feared that I'd be pulling teeth to get everyone to help me figure out how we can make the cuts necessary to have a balanced budget. But I think every department head jumped on board. No one was thrilled, myself included, but everyone took on the challenge and attacked it, and so I'm very proud with where we ended up. I wanted to point out, I emailed y'all the budget and included provision. We had discussed at the budget meetings the need for a part-time janitor or custodian position at the police department. I went and completely neglected to include that in the budget at the last meeting. We went ahead and put it in the budget and offset it by, we're expecting a rebate for the health insurance that'll actually exceed that amount. So we were able to still show a completely balanced budget. And what we didn't do was budget as a revenue the anticipated rebate that we're getting back from the health insurance, in case anyone's wondering how we added a part-time position still balanced out there. And I think that's super important. As we discussed at the budget meetings, we have, some high-ranking police officers that are cleaning the bathrooms and the like, and I'd much rather they be focused on, fighting crime and all that amazing stuff that they do. Trying to make eye contact with Chief, but.
Will we be hiring an individual or a service?
An individual.
Okay.
Individual. And they have, I want to say they have someone currently who is hired on the condition that they knew that it was a temporary position that would be expiring at the end of the year, because we didn't want to obligate it until the next year. Looks like that person is no longer with us. Chief? They never took the position. Okay, so I guess y'all are still scrubbing away. Well, if there's no discussion, and there was.
Motion to approve resolution 2020-34.
Thank you, motion second. I was gonna say there was 3 whole meetings of discussion. But we do have a motion and a second. Is there any additional discussion at this time?
I'd just say again, I think that was the best budget process we've had since I've been on the city council. It's been 8 years. It was a very good one. There was definitely a need to do what was done, and it got done. So I really commend you and your entire staff for getting that done. Thank you.
Thank you. Any additional discussion? If not, all those in favor, please say yes.
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 All opposed, please say no. Motion carries. The next order of business is Resolution 2020-35, amending the general fund budget for 2020. Madam City Clerk Treasurer, if you could please read that by title only.
A resolution of the City Council of the City of Maumelle, County of Pulaski, State of Arkansas, a resolution to be entitled Resolution Number 2020-35, a resolution to amend the 2020 general fund budget.
I didn't mean to mute you, but I did. All right, so we had discussed some additional revenue that the city was getting and had received as a grant to reimburse the city for expenditures it had made related to the city's COVID-19 response. We received that money, and what just about every city did, I can't speak for all of them, just about every city sought reimbursement for personnel costs, and then that money hit the general fund, and then it was appropriated from there, rather than go in and list each individual item and then submit that, because a lot of those numbers would have to go to the state boards and be approved. And so we were able to seek reimbursement for some of our emergency responses, as well as a few other things. What we now have is the budget that would allow the city to spend some of that money that we talked about. We talked about a number of this stuff during the budget process. The end result is this budget resolution would approve these purchases, with the net result being, I love a budget resolution that shows more money going into the general fund. So the net added to the general fund at the end, even including those expenditures, are just over $327,000. With that, if there is any questions, comments, I'd be happy to answer those. Councilmember Mosley.
Sorry for all my questions.
No,
tonight.
no.
Okay, we've received the money, right? And it was.
We have not yet received the money.
Oh, we've just been notified.
We've been approved to get the money. So this is an amendment to the 2020 budget.
Right.
So we're running out of time to spend it in 2020. So we've been approved for that money. We're expected to get it in the next week or two.
Oh,
Ms.
okay,
Mathis?
we'll get it before the end of the year.
Yes.
Our requests have been approved. In fact, our payment requests have been approved. So it's literally just at DFA waiting to issue payments for the three projects that we sent into the state.
Okay, and so at the time we get that money, then that'll wipe out that negative balance in the payroll reimbursement that we're doing tonight. Is that correct?
It basically, that money right there is going to be a reimbursement to the general fund from that COVID relief fund where we received that grant money, and it's reimbursing us for payroll expenses.
Okay.
That was how it was proposed through the state.
I was just looking at the entries here, and that first entry is the current budget
It's
is
basically
0, and then it goes to negative, and so when we get the money, it'll put it back to 0. Is that correct?
No, it's a credit. It's going to credit it's almost like an offsetting expense or a contra expense that's giving us a credit for payroll expenses that we incurred. So it's, instead of recording it as a revenue, it's a credit to an expense.
Okay.
Does that make more sense?
I may call you and ask you about that tomorrow.
Okay. Believe me, I sat on a call last Wednesday with finance directors from all over the state and the municipal league, and we got into a discussion, and honestly, it may change. We're waiting on CPA firms to advise us on how all of this stuff is supposed to be recorded. So this is the simplest way to present it. If the CPA firms come back and tell us we have to record it all a different way, may have to change how we record it in our books. It's going to have the same net result that we're looking at.
Just to be clear, we're not talking about the city hiring CPA firms. We're talking about cities and counties across the state coming together and going, how the heck are we supposed to properly book and account this money, right? So
Okay.
we know what we have, we're showing are just one line item of payroll expenses, and that's kind of a citywide entry. One way we could have done it was go back into every department in their payroll, which is not, it's salaries, health, and hit every line item. But we'd have a massive, budget amendment to sort of reimburse or recredit those. So this is, I think the
Okay.
simpler way to do it.
Yeah, we would have to move all of that to that COVID relief fund, and so instead of doing that, we're moving the one lump sum the other direction.
And then it's a little bit misleading, Ms. Mathis, to say you sat in a phone call last week. I think you've been in several phone calls every week for the last number of months on.
That's true, but that was the topic of last week's call.
All right, thank you very much.
Motion to approve resolution 2020-35.
We have a motion and a second to approve resolution 2020-35. Is there any additional discussion? Seeing none, Madam City Clerk Treasurer, roll call vote, please. You're right. We don't need to do a roll call vote. All those in favor of approving resolution 2020-35, please say yes.
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 All opposed, please say no. Motion carries. The next order of business is resolution 2020-36, amending membership fees. Madam City Clerk Treasurer, if you could please read that by title only.
A resolution of the City Council of the City of Maumelle, County of Pulaski, State of Arkansas, a resolution to be entitled Resolution Number 2020-36, a resolution amending membership fees to the Maumelle Community Center and for other purposes.
All right, thank you. So we discussed this at the budget meeting. One of the big changes we're doing here is reducing some of the rates for non-resident membership, and that should make the community center more competitive and hopefully increase its membership and therefore increase the rates being raised. There is a small, or there is a proposed rate increase for residents for Pass C fees and Pass F fees as listed in here. I'm happy to answer any questions, and Mr. Rayburn is here as well. Councilmember Mosley?
Again, I'm sorry, I'm asking so many questions. I think a lot of things were discussed in the budget meetings, and there was a lot of times I couldn't hear some side conversations other than the speaker speaking. As far as this goes, it looks like some pretty healthy rate reductions for the non-residents. I'm assuming we just don't have too many people that are paying those higher rates, and the idea is to reduce them and you get more money in total than you would have the way it was. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. The rates, I think, were set at a time where membership was much higher, and we really wanted to prioritize allowing Maumelle residents to use the Maumelle facilities. As memberships have decreased, as there's more and more gyms and CrossFit boxes and alternative exercise out there, there's more options, and therefore membership is a little bit lower. So hopefully by reducing the non-resident rates, we'll be more competitive and get more membership.
I do, sometimes I question the logic of competing with private gyms and things like that, because if we get our rates too low, we'll put those people out of business, and I don't know that that's what we're here to do. But I think we just need to bear that in mind over time. And I do look at the non-residents as a way, if we've got excess capacity above our residents, then yeah, let's go ahead and sell memberships and get some more money to offset our costs. But anyway, do you have something you wanted to add?
I did, just to help with that question. It's basically, you know, we've outlasted most of all the health clubs, multiple health clubs in Maumelle, and we were pretty much the lowest. Fitness 10 came in basically the same price, but they offer a little bit more, and they're bigger, newer, fancier. So that's between them and the senior center. That's where we've lost members over the last few years. And looking at the other Parks and Rec departments in Central Arkansas, and we also included Arkadelphia because they have basically the same pool as we do. They've all gone away from their non-resident rates and pretty much charge the same rate. But what I did with the health club is where we can definitely handle more members. So we didn't want to change a whole lot there, but bring that price down for the non-residents to fill more members for the center. Now in the pool, because of what we're spending on with minimum wage going up each year, we were getting behind. So that's why we bumped the resident rates up a little bit there to try to offset the salaries for the workers there. Because they're pretty much all minimum wage. Unless they work multiple years, we'll bump them up a quarter. But we had plenty at the pool this year. We had a lot of people paying non-resident fees, and COVID was a big factor. I think a lot of people stayed home instead of going on vacations, but they came to the pool. And then the biggest factor, I believe, is Wild River Country being closed. We got a lot of non-residents coming to the pool. Now, it's kind of opposite from the health club. We've got space for them at the health club. The pool was getting kind of, even with reduced occupancy, we were still seeing some big numbers at the pool. So kind of wanted to keep the pool, raise it to offset some of those, and make it to where, you know, we won't be overbooked there at the pool.
Thank you, sir. That's all I've got. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any additional discussion? We've got a motion and a second to approve Resolution 2020-36. All those in favor, please say yes.
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 All opposed, please say no. Motion carries. Thank you. We'll move on to mayor's comments at this point. The first thing I wanted to mention is there will be a groundbreaking for the splash pad this Friday, December 11th at 10 a.m. It'll be right there next to the tennis court, so please come on out, wear your masks and socially distance and all that fun stuff, and join us for that if you'd like. Also on December 19th at 1 p.m., a resident will be hosting a Christmas reverse parade, much like we did for Independence Day. The city's going to help them kind of put that on, but that'll be the same route as we had for Independence Day. And so we're hoping to get a lot of turnout. If you're looking to sign up or participate, stay tuned to the city's Facebook page, where we'll sort of share some of that information there. Finally, letter C on my list is I am sad to announce that our Human Resource Director, Keisha Walker, has put in her notice, and so I think that's a huge loss to the city. She'll be here for a few more weeks, but she had an amazing opportunity come up to open up her own business with some funds, and so I wish her the best. But I just wanted to announce that in case you've seen the posting. I've got interviews set for tomorrow to begin the interview process for her replacement. With that, is there any city council member comments? Councilmember Mosley.
Yeah, when I was out on the campaign trail this year, the thing that I got stopped and talked to about the most were streetlights. It seems to be a big deal this year. Some were too bright, some too dim, some that had shields on them to block light from hitting certain houses, people wanting streetlights, people not wanting streetlights. And I do have one constituent that's been calling me here. they're upset about a shield that's been put on a light where their light, their house doesn't get lit by a street light. I was just wondering, who with the city I need to kind of visit with and find out how to resolve that? That would be you, Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
Okay, I'll give you a
So,
call. Give you a call.
Yeah, C-Click, well, there's a litany of C-Click fix items up there. So one of the issues that we've been working on for 2 years now is trying to get the street lights reported and up when they're out. Unfortunately, if a neighborhood has had a light out for a while and then you put the light back in, inevitably you'll find people who liked that the light was out. It's one of those things that fixing a light bulb or fixing a light upsets people, not fixing a light upsets people. And I've just about thrown my hands up at it. With regards to the particular incident and light that you're referring to, someone contacted Entergy. Entergy added a shield because the light was out. They fixed the light. The light was bright. The light was shining in the front room. They asked for a shield to be put on the light so that the light wouldn't go into their house. Entergy put the shield on. Another resident said they liked that the light illuminated their front yard, and so they asked Entergy to take off the shield. Entergy punted it to us and said, well, what do you want us to do? We don't have a policy. We went out and made sure that there was nothing crazy going on with that light and asked if you could either put a smaller shield on it so that it only blocks part of, one person's yard but not the other person's yard. And I gave them approval to amend, cut, or replace the shield, provided that it blocked the light from person A, but still allowed it to hit person B's yard. They put the shield on, and then it was reported that the entire light was out now. And so I was on the phone as recently as today with Michael Johnson, who you all met from Entergy, who said he was going to go out there and drive it tonight to make sure and see what the status of that light is. That's just one of them. I've got a whole handful of cases where we finally repaired lights that are out, and now people are upset. So.
Okay, so this one here, supposedly the shield's been fixed to make everybody happy, and all it needs is a light bulb. Is that correct?
Well, the shield went on, the shield came off, the shield went back on, but now there's arguments over whether it accomplished what it was supposed to or not. And then when I went out to check it, the light was out, so I couldn't check if the shield was proper. So now it re-enters the queue to get the light put back in.
Hopefully we can get that one done. I've heard enough about it myself. So.
I don't know that it'll be done.
Yeah.
If you make,
And,
just so you know.
Okay, that's fine. We'll work on it. We'll get there eventually. But I hope you can punt that responsibility to a streetlight czar at some point. So thank you.
Well, so Mr. Grummer has become the streetlight czar. Although I think he would happily pass that on. I know Mr. Jason Lyons is taking on some of that, and we've had other folks. Apparently getting streetlights to function is far more difficult than it would sound. Councilmember Gardner.
Thank you, sir. I know during the budget session, we talked about some HR processes and systems that you were hoping to implement this coming year, and I think we eliminated the part-time position as well, if I recall. So what are your plans going forward for keeping that going?
Pardon me? I'm sorry.
So we talked during budget about some HR solutions, electronic
Correct,
HR
yes,
solutions.
yes,
So
yes.
is that still going to go ahead full steam? Is that the plan?
Yes.
Okay.
So, in fact, some of that was in the budget resolution that we just saw.
Right.
With NeoGov and then the HR functions within OpenGov. Yeah, we're still full steam ahead on that. Obviously, my number one priority with HR is getting as many people cross-trained to be able to handle payroll as possible. And especially because we now have a new-ish part-time HR generalist. Sarah has been learning it. Liz has been learning. I know City clerk has done it before. We're trying to get as much redundancy as possible to make sure that everyone gets paid in a timely manner. And it'll be the new HR director's job to onboard with NeoGov. I think a lot of the OpenGov onboarding will be done primarily through finance and with the OpenGov enrollment. But yeah, so the goal is to keep on trucking, and in fact, if anything, it's more important now
Sure.
than ever before.
And do we still, so we have a part-time position in HR?
Yes.
A generalist, okay. Okay. Oh, that's right, we talked about not having a full-time and dropping it to part-time. Okay, thank you,
Yes.
sir.
Yes. Councilmember Scott?
Well, this is my last council meeting. Yes, because I had frequent flyer miles that needed to be used. I promised my daughter I would come and see her for Christmas for the first time in 25 years. And I couldn't get a ticket on the 22nd or beyond, so I have to go on the 21st. So I will be on a plane at the next council meeting. It has been an honor and a privilege. I think R.J. Mazzoni will do a very, very good job. And of course, Chad will continue to look out for our ward constituents as he always has. And I would hope to stay on the mailing lists for the council packet and for the planning commission packet, if that would be possible, because I plan to keep my nose in everybody's business like I always have. So, anyway, that's it for me.
Well, good. I wish I would have known that. We could have had a pizza party or something for you here tonight.
Something.
No. But thank you very much for your years of service, which I think extend far beyond just what you've done on the
Absolutely,
city
my pleasure.
council.
My pleasure.
Councilmember Williams.
Well, I wanted to bring it to everybody's attention. I know we've been without a local newspaper for a long, long time now, and a lot of people have requested one. And just this past week, we have the ArkansasNewsroom.com that has come out, and they're going to have quite a bit of Maumelle news online. Jeremy Peppis, as we all know, was the editor of the Maumelle Monitor, has begun this online digital newspaper. So I would request and like for everybody to go to that site. They're offering subscriptions for this. And I think for a little while it may be free, and then you can sign up to get a subscription. It comes straight to your email. And Neil Moore wrote an article in it today. It was very, very good. And, he's such an excellent writer, and he keeps us all updated on what's going on around town. So I want to encourage everybody to take a look at that and consider subscribing. It's www.arkansasnewsroom.com. You can even give a gift subscription on there if you wanted to give somebody something cool for Christmas. Yeah, I got you, Chad.
Thank you. Any additional council member comments? Madam City Attorney?
No comments.
Madam City Clerk?
Yes, actually. I just want to encourage everyone to please, if you haven't already, sign up for the winter conference with Arkansas Municipal League. There's still a huge resource of information. Don't let staying in deter you from doing that. If you need help or if you would like me to do it for you, I'll be happy to do so. Just send me an email and I'll take care of the particulars. I spoke to Mark Hayes last week, and registrations are down quite a bit. So just want to encourage you guys to sign up for that. It's January 13th through the 15th, and you can do that now. And also, I was disheartened to find out on social media that Ecky Harris passed away. So I want to send out my condolences to his family. He didn't live in Maumelle, but they often did a lot of things for citizens here. And so I just want you guys, if you knew Ecky or his family, say a prayer, reach out to them.
Thank you. I hadn't heard that. I'm sorry, who was it?
Ecky Harris, he has several tow trucks. He's done business with the city for years. He's done a lot of philanthropy in the community of Maumelle. So he's just a quiet angel, I like to think of, because they're in the backgrounds with a lot of things happen. happened because of his family.
He and his tow service were one of the services that the police would use when they called wreckers, and so, and because that means they're working through the city, primarily the clerk's office, they became a familiar face at City Hall from time to time. Also for Mr. Shin and RJ Mazzoni, if you guys would like to attend, that was me pointing to the camera, I would like to attend the Arkansas Municipal League's, it's a virtual conference, right? So I'd strongly recommend if you can find a way to make that happen, just let the city clerk know and we'll get you signed up for that. It's a great introduction to elected office.
Mayor, I'm sorry, if I may.
You may.
Councilmember Scott, I just want to say thank you for everything that you've done for the community. You have been a wonderful example of professionalism, kindness. You will, roll up your sleeves and get down and dirty, but you also probably can solve a quadratic equation. So it's been refreshing to get to know you, and I hope you still are part of the community. You'll be missed.
All right. I guess that concludes the meeting. I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All right, all those in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
All opposed,
Yes.
please say no. We are adjourned, thank you.